everybody. It's great to have you again back on our channel. My name is Amara.
And my name is Gospel.
If you're new to our channel, we want to kindly bid you welcome. Please hit the subscribe button and turn your notification bell on so you know when we put content out. It'll be amazing to have you join in on our conversation. To all our returning subscribers, it's always a joy to have you come back and watch and engage with the content that we are putting out. We are doing this because of you guys. Just imagine ourselves talking to ourselves without anybody engaging with us. It would just be a waste of time.
Yeah. We also want to say if you find this content valuable, you can as well share it with your friends and family and those who would find value in what we discussed today.
Amazing. Today we want to talk about positive comparison in marriage.
Wow, positive comparison in marriage. Obviously, when we talk about comparison, the first thing that comes to mind is, why do you need to compare yourself with others?
Yep.
Why do you need to compare your marriage with those of other people? But then we are looking at it that there could be positive comparison in marriage.
Absolutely. Let's start by defining the word comparison. Comparison, especially in the context of the conversation that we're having today, is when you try to gauge your relationship with others. So you're trying to weigh to see, how does my relationship fit with other people? The problem is that this is mostly based on some half-truths. Maybe you don't have like the whole story. It could also be based on certain assumptions. It could also be based on unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, we make assumptions in terms of the perfect nature of someone else's marriage. Because, we live in an era of social media.
Yeah.
Someone puts out something quite interesting and fascinating about their marriage there. And you think, this is how beautiful their marriage is. This is the perfect marriage. And I actually want to have this kind of marriage. Without knowing that people can only show you what they want you to see.
Absolutely.
That's not the whole picture. Because you're on the outside, you assume that because this perfect marriage is put out there,
this is
your
what
life,
it is.
this is what it is, and your marriage is the worst.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go on if you want to take
So
it
you're
from there.
trying to make comparison, looking at other people's marriage and trying to judge your own marriage or gauge your own marriage. And most times it's not what it seems. People always, like you said, people always put out what's the beautiful side of things. That doesn't mean that people don't put out, things that are authentic, but it's not 100%.
Yeah.
Every relationship have got to navigate their own challenges. Every relationship have got their own seasons. And if you're constantly comparing your relationship with another relationship, you don't know what season they're in. And you might not have the entire picture to tell the full story of that relationship.
Now, we want to look at some of the areas people make comparison. Number one is comparing your spouse with another spouse. Comparison in the sense that maybe you wanted to marry someone who is an extrovert and you're saying, my wife is an introvert.
Yeah.
She doesn't talk like the other person's wife. She doesn't behave like the other person. You're looking at personality. You're looking at character, you're looking at behavior, you're looking at mannerism, you're looking at different things about someone else and bringing it into your spouse.
Yeah.
Forgetting that your spouse is unique. No two persons are the same. So you have to think about your spouse and appreciate the uniqueness of your spouse.
Absolutely. Because a lot of times when we do that, we end up damaging our spouse. We end up chipping away their self-confidence, and you end up, not appreciating who this person or the value that this person brings into that relationship. I think another way, in line with comparing your spouse with another spouse, you looked at personality, but also I find that, a lot of times people tend to compare personal achievements of another spouse or personal success of another spouse with another spouse. So, for example,
I think that's a common area.
Yeah, so you could have a wife or a husband saying to their spouse saying, look at this person's wife or look at this person's husband, see what they have achieved. And it's now a constant point of conflict in the relationship because you're having some high expectations from your wife to fit into another man's wife's persona in terms of their achievement or in terms of their success. But like you said, everybody's different. Everyone is unique. And I think it is really important that, yes, if you want to see your spouse achieve something, then you first of all need to understand who your spouse is and help them to achieve success at their own terms.
Yeah, leaning on what you just said, I think we have different journeys in life.
Absolutely.
You have to put into consideration where your spouse is coming from. It might not be the same with the other person.
That's true.
The person may have a network of friends or family background that allows him or her to thrive at a different pace. So you don't have to put pressure on your spouse.
That's true.
Because you're trying to, compare him or her with the other person. Is actually not the best. Because sometimes people say, oh, look at this person has done this or that for his or her spouse.
Yeah.
It's like me saying to you, honey, my friend's wife bought him a car. What are you doing? You should do the same for me. It doesn't make sense. Because there are things you do for me that the other person's wife doesn't do for him.
100%.
So you have to enjoy the uniqueness of the person you're married to.
Yeah.
And talking about comparing your spouse with another spouse, do you know that some husbands, I want to talk about husbands now because I'm a man.
Okay.
Some husbands compare the look of their wife to those of others.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's applicable to women. It could be, but in most cases,
where you expect your husband to look a certain way, like a certain model, or like a certain, you say, oh, look at your friend or look at XYZ. Yeah. Your body shape isn't quite right.
Body shape in terms of
maybe he's overweight.
I want maybe as you are, okay, my wife is not on the big side. And all of a sudden, she's big, and I'm saying, look at you. You used to be very slim. Now you're, can't you see that the other person's wife is this way or that way?
Yeah,
That is not the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Such comparison is never allowed within the context of marriage.
Well, and I would say that, for us women, our bodies go through a lot, you were talking about, process and, our bodies go through a lot. We carry babies, we're pregnant, so many things are hormones. And, it is really, yes, I would say it is important that you look after your health, but there are ways to have those conversations with your spouse, not from a point of shaming that person or making that person feel like I'm less of myself, or, you have issues with your body image or something like that. There are ways to have that conversation in a very healthy way and communicate what you really mean rather than shaming the other person. Yeah. The second area that I think people tend to compare a lot in relationship is personal happiness. Everybody is happy except me.
Wow.
That marriage is happy except ours, or seems happy except ours. I think this in itself is a huge problem. Your happiness should not be based on somebody else's happiness. And you shouldn't allow, somebody else's happiness to be the thermometer that sort of measures the temperature of your own happiness.
Yeah, I would say in someone else's happiness. The point is that some people's happiness can even become a point of sadness.
That's true.
Because this other person is happy.
And I'm not happy.
He's
Why
happy,
are they
she's
happy? Yeah.
Oh, because they're happy, I'm not happy.
Oh, yeah, true. But I think that is unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy because we ought to be happy for other people, and if you find yourself at that point where, everyone is happy except you, and maybe do you want to be happy because other people are sad? Just think about it. It's not, I don't think it's the right mindset, but yes, it does happen where people tend to be sad because other people are happy. your journey is different. Your life is different. Whatever it is you're expecting from your marriage or whatever it is you're expecting from your life will definitely happen in time. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this is where I think that people need to put in the work.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what that other person have. You don't know their journey. You don't know what they've been through, and you don't know what efforts they've made in order to attain, whatever heights they've attained as a person.
Yeah.
So it is really important that, rather than you trying to be sad because somebody else is happy, there's a need to change and reevaluate your mindset, and that's some of the things we'll be talking about later on in terms of positive comparison.
Talking about happiness, our belief is that happiness is more of who you are.
Yeah.
You create your happiness. You create your ambience, the ambience or the atmosphere for your happiness. You're not looking for happiness outside. You're looking for it inwardly.
Absolutely.
So find ways to make yourself happy. Don't compare your happiness with the happiness of other people. If they are happy, whatever they are doing to make themselves happy,
be happy for them.
Find what you can do
to make
yourself happy.
Absolutely.
It might be little things. In fact, your unhappiness could be as a result of your mindset.
Absolutely.
So change your mindset to see that life challenges are always there, but life doesn't stop because there are challenges.
Absolutely.
Find a way of making yourself happy. And then looking at the issue of positive comparison. How then do you compare?
I think that, positive comparison, and I try to give a definition. I try, to define it in a way so people can understand where we're coming from, the context as well. Positive comparison is when you compare your present self with your future self.
Wow.
So you are competing
with yourself. So the comparison is not external.
Absolutely.
The comparison is internal. Our idea is that for you to make that positive comparison, you need to create a vision of where you want to be in the future. So that you compare your present situation with your future situation.
Absolutely. I think that, we've talked about this before in our previous videos when we looked at vision in your marriage or vision in your relationship. The thing is, where do you see your marriage in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years? It is really important that you have a picture. You create, and that's what you're saying about the vision of your marriage. Be intentional about evaluating the state of your relationship. Nobody's going to put in the work for you. It's your relationship. You have to tend it, and you need to tend it together. You need to compare where you are at the moment in terms of your marriage and what's going to be your vision. How do you want to, pivot the next phase? Where do you want to be 5, 10 years, 20 years down the line? It is really important because this in itself is what we mean by positive comparison. So you're looking at your now relationship and now trying to chart a course for the next couple of years.
So obviously what we're saying is that look at the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
Absolutely.
And fill that gap. The first point is create that picture of where you want to be. Find the gaps and look at what you can do to fill in the gaps. So your comparison is with yourself, your personal life, your spouse, your marriage, now and in the future.
Yeah. And this sorry, I don't know if you finished.
No, go on.
This could also apply to the singles listening to us right now. You could say, okay, I'm not in a marriage. Well, you are a person, you are a human being. So, what is your vision for your life personally? Because a lot of times people get into relationship they're not supposed to be in because they haven't quite understood who they are, what their vision is. And they find themselves, being in a relationship with someone who has no business with where they're going to. So it is about you trying to understand the difference, like you said, with where you are right now and where you want to be and trying to bridge that gap. Even as a person, challenge yourself as a single person trying to bridge that gap. And the same would apply also in your relationship eventually.
What this does is that it helps you to moderate the level of pressure you put on yourself. You motivate yourself to become what you want to be. Every day you work on becoming the best version of yourself, or your marriage or your relationship. You're not looking externally to compare, you're looking internally
to compare.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, it is really important that you focus on being the best version of yourself. See, we talked about you competing with yourself, right? So you asking yourself, where am I now? What are my goals? What are my vision? Where do I want to be in the next couple of years? Focus on being the best version of yourself. There shouldn't be any room for mediocrity. You should always aim for the best. What you're currently doing in your career or your job as a person, am I the best? Do I have the right skills? Have I been able to develop myself to a point where I am, scaling on a particular pedestal? Okay, so it is really important that you focus on being that best version, that best you.
The best version of you is what makes your marriage the best version of your marriage. So rather than look at what is happening out there, look at what is happening in your life. Get the best version of you, because once you're the best, you're willing and capable of giving the best into your marriage. That's the way your marriage will become the model that other people want to look at and say, oh,
wow,
I love what's going on here.
That's true.
They get inspiration from your relationship. So be the best version of yourself. That's the way you can also close the gap.
Yeah.
It is one thing to evaluate your present state, comparing it with your future state. But if you don't do anything to become what you want to be, it's not going to happen.
That's true.
Or else you get to 10 years' time and you still see that you're struggling.
Still at the same sport.
And that will put more pressure on you because there is no growth.
That's
so
true.
our understanding is that everyone should engage in continuous learning, personal development, continuous, ongoing personal development. No matter the level you are, there is always another level. There's always something better. There's always skills to acquire. There's always something to learn. Unlearn, relearn, and become the best you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the first thing we want to say, and that's just following up from what we said earlier, is think about ways to help improve your spouse. We talked about, the ways people tend to compare. You look at your wife or you look at your husband and say, oh, I wish my husband or my wife is so and so. Look at your spouse. This is God's choicest gift to you. Imagine what it feels like to be in an intimate relationship with another human being. I think this presents a unique opportunity for you to bring out the best in that person. Try to get to know them more. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And see how you can best support them on that journey. Really important that you are contributing to building up your spouse and not tearing them down.
So rather than looking at how good the other person's spouse is, think about how you can make your spouse the best version for you.
Yeah.
Put in the work. Because if you look at the other, they say the
grass
grass is always greener
on the other side. Yeah.
If it is actually greener on the other side, someone is doing the watering.
Absolutely.
Someone is cultivating and doing all the work.
Yeah, we believe that the grass is greener where you water it, actually.
Exactly.
You have to water the grass, you have to tend it.
Yes.
And then you begin to see it flourish.
To also point out that helping your spouse develop or become the best doesn't mean you're going to point out all the negative things about your spouse. You're not going to put pressure on your spouse or try to change your spouse.
Yeah.
It's good I say that. You can't change your spouse, but you can motivate your spouse to become the best that he or she can be.
Yeah.
From a positive standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for interjecting. There was something you said about being patient with your spouse. Everyone has a journey, right? Everyone need to go through a process, and sometimes your pace is not your spouse's pace. It is important that you inspire them, you help steer them, do whatever you can do. But the key thing here is whatever you do it out of love. Don't put pressure on the other person.
Another point is that you need to appreciate what you have and where you are at the moment. Yes, you want to get the best out of your relationship, 10 years goal, 5-year goal, and all of those. Appreciate where you are now, because where you are may not be where you have always been.
Yeah.
Life is a journey. Each step of the way, take time to, appreciate where you are, enjoy the moment, pat yourself at the back. Yes, you've done a lot to get to where you are. Appreciate what you have as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're looking at what other people have, but what about what you have? What are your special skills, goals, your ability to do certain things that other people cannot do?
Yeah.
The fact that you're even married and you have a spouse whom you are connected to is an opportunity. It is something wonderful, because there are people out there longing to have the kind of relationship you have. But you're thinking, I don't have the best.
And I want to have the relationship that they have without actually focusing on yours. And this kind of feeds into you just spending time and making memories. Savor the moment. You would not always be at this stage in life. Life is progressive, we say. Think about when you got married. Think about all the things that you were believing God for, you were hoping to have. And maybe those are no longer prayer points anymore, because you have been able to navigate those challenges and now here you are. But think about even the moments, even the challenges can be captured for memory's sake. Have a journal, document some of these things, because these are things that you look back at and you are grateful for the journey that you have been through with this special person.
Yeah, the point is that where you are now is not where you've always been.
Absolutely.
And where you are now is not also where you're going to be. But try your best to appreciate this point.
Yeah.
The fifth one we want to talk about is focus on the positives in your spouse and your marriage. People are so good at looking at the positives in other people's life, and when you look at your spouse, you want to look at all the bad things around your spouse, what he or she is not doing, what he or she doesn't have, like we said earlier. Rather than looking at those, think about the wonderful things about your spouse, the times you guys have had, the best moments, and the contributions he or she has made. Because your spouse is unique, your spouse is special. There are specific things only your spouse can do for you.
Absolutely.
So look at those. Don't look at the ones you don't have. In fact, your marriage is also in itself a good thing. There are people out there who long to be married,
but
they are not married. I'm not saying marriage is the most important thing that will happen in one's life, but if you desire to be married and you're not, then something is missing.
Absolutely.
So for the fact that you're married, you have someone who is connected to you heart to heart, even though the person is not perfect, because no one is going to be perfect. Appreciate that person and focus on the positives
in that relationship
or marriage.
Yes. The next thing I want to talk about, which kind of follows up from what you were saying, is be realistic about your marriage. Every marriage is on a journey, right? And it is really important that you embrace where you are. Do a reality check on your relationship, where you are now. It is really important, because it is not the best for you to, think about this is where we want to be without actually doing some reality check on your relationship. Do not forget that a lot that has happened in your relationship is down to the choices that you've made. It's down to the decisions that you've made. And maybe you made a bad choice. It's okay. You can keep crying over spilled milk. It's happened. Now the question is, do we want to stay there? Or do we want to get on, let's move on from where we are? And I think this is where you really need to be realistic. Don't try to cover things and say, oh, we're all fine, we're all good. No, if it's not good, acknowledge it's not good. And then you begin to discuss how you navigate out of that.
Yeah, the point is that the people you're looking out there and you're really admiring their marriage, they are there because they've made positive choices or decisions that led them to where they are.
Yeah.
And for you, you're where you are because maybe you chose someone you shouldn't have gotten married to, and you keep regretting it, and you keep crying over it, and you keep saying to yourself, I wish I never married this person. I wish I was not in this relationship. What can you do? Here you are. So rather than making comparison and trying to build a fantasy around the kind of marriage you should have, think about what you have and what you can do with that which you have. You're here. How can you see the positives in your marriage and choose the best of it? Maybe there are decisions that have, like you said, that have led you guys into a bad spot in your marriage.
Yeah.
What are the positive decisions you had to make to get out of that bad spot? It's not going to be automatic. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process.
Yeah.
So be patient with the process. Keep doing the positive things. You might be surprised. The person you think is not the best may be the best, just that you're not looking at the positive side.
Absolutely.
So don't have an unrealistic expectation of yourself and your spouse. The other people you're looking at, maybe their journey is on a different level.
Yeah. And you don't know what they've been through.
They've been through and what they've done to get to where they are.
Yeah, true.
So be realistic with yourself. You don't think, oh, in this marriage, in the next 10 years, we are going to be billionaires. When you don't even have a job. It's good.
Or not just a job. You might have a job, but it's about, what are the steps that you have put, what are the plans that you have put in place? Really important.
Yeah, and you know that your plans will not lead you to that dream. If not, you will end up being frustrated.
That's true.
So you have to think about where are you, what can you do, and limit your desire or your expectation within the boundaries of your capacity.
That's true. That's true. And I think, you've touched on that. You've done justice to that. Another thing I think is really, really important to mention here is you need to understand how to communicate with your spouse, on how you can, improve your marriage, on how you can improve your life. Communication is like the lifeblood of a relationship. Whatever it is you're doing in terms of, we talked about creating a vision, for your marriage and, where you see yourself in the next, it's something you have to talk about. You just have to have these conversations. And sometimes these conversations are difficult, especially when it's around how we can improve ourselves and how you can, navigate a particular challenge. It's okay, but you have to have these honest conversations, but respectfully too.
Yeah, because the conversation or communication is the key element to achieving everything we've talked about. Yeah. You don't have to do it in isolation. You can't say, okay, well, my spouse is not in it. It's time for me to plan for this marriage. Yes, you're making that plan, but if you're not working together, it's not going to be effective. So it has to be a teamwork. It has to be something you've decided to do together. And if there are choices that are not helping your marriage, it could be you or your spouse, you must communicate effectively to have the best marriage, okay? And we've talked about all of these. Yes, there is a gap you want to fill. You want to compare yourself to yourself. You want to compare your marriage to your marriage, but then you have to put in the work. Absolutely. One of the work is to start with an honest conversation, and then you point out the things you need to do, the skills you need to acquire, the character change, the transformation you need to go through to be able to get to where you want to be.
That's true.
Stop comparing yourself with other people, but compare yourself
with your future self. Yeah, your future self.
Yes.
And I don't know, you're watching right to this moment. I want to commend you guys for doing that. Please let us know on the chat if there's some of the things we've said that kind of resonates with you or you've taken value from. Just put it on the chat. Or maybe there's something that you felt, I think they missed out on this. Also put that comment on the chat. It will be great to read from you guys. And I just want to say thank you for watching right to this moment. And if you've watched right to this moment, you're new here, you've forgotten for some reason, you got carried away with the conversation, to hit the subscribe button. Now is the time for you to do that. Just hit the subscribe button and turn your notification bell on, and it will be great to have you chime into our conversations every single week. It's been an amazing time. We have enjoyed this conversation, and we hope you can get value from this. Share this with people who might need this. And until the next time, it's goodbye from us.